So welcome everyone to one of our union conversations, and today I'm here with Julie Allen. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you, Simon.
Great to have you here. We had a very lovely conversation a few weeks ago, and I'm very happy to be talking with you today. So today we're going to be talking about the ACT framework and a little bit about emotional flexibility, which I'm very excited to learn about from you, Julie. First of all, I'll just introduce myself. I'm Simon, the founder of Union. We're a supportive social network for mental health, well-being, and friendship. We're available on the Google Play Store and Apple App Store. So if you need any kind of mental health support, we're the place to be. Julie, I would love to hear all about you.
Okay, first of all, Simon, thank you for having me. It is great to be here. Any opportunity I have, I very much welcome in terms of being able to share the ACT matrix. Hopefully what you'll find during the time that we chat is that is something I'm very passionate about, because what I see is that making a difference in people's lives. So I suppose a little bit about me. Yes, Julie Allen is the name. My company is Julie Allen Consulting, and I tend to help people in workplaces generally around psychological flexibility, psychological safety, emotional intelligence, and things like employee engagement. So I have been self-employed for over 25 years now. And the core of everything I do is about trying to create great places to work. And that involves helping employers to understand employees better, but also to help employees in whatever way I can. And developing psychological flexibility, or the use of the ACT matrix, which is what we're going to talk about today, is one of those things that I do, is helping to develop that emotional, psychological resilience.
That's fantastic. I'm looking forward to hearing all about it. Let's introduce the ACT matrix then. I'm very interested in how this works, Julie. I don't know a lot about it, so
Okay.
take us through an outline of how this works.
Okay. Just before I do that, it might be useful to give a little bit of context in terms of why we might be having this conversation today,
Oh, absolutely.
if that's okay with you.
Absolutely, yeah.
And one of the things that I talk about when I'm meeting with most people is to help understand that we are all the same. And I think we'll find when we talk about the ACT matrix that that's the case. So Gallup are really one of the leading organisations in terms of collecting data about workforces. They conduct an annual survey called the Global State of the Workforce. And the global state of the workforce for 2024 indicated that 41% of the global workforce are experiencing stress on a daily basis.
So, wow.
It's a lot. 21% of the global workforce are experiencing anger on a daily basis.
A lot of angry workers as well. Wow.
Yeah, on a global basis. So, and 22% are experiencing sadness on a daily basis.
It's billions of people. That's a really shocking figure. Wow, yeah.
Absolutely. And the next one, I think, which is one that you understand, and part of the reason why you're trying to build this supportive network, is 20% of the global workforce are experiencing loneliness on a daily basis.
Wow. Wow, wow. That's surprising when people are going to work and they're feeling loneliness around
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
20% of people, that wow.
And a lot of that has to do with, the world has changed. There's a lot more hybrid working. So you're right, people are
I see.
going to work, but
Mhm.
sometimes that going to work isn't necessarily in the workplace and
Okay,
not
yeah.
surrounded by their colleagues and
Mm.
being able to meet people at lunchtime even or after work because they're perhaps working from home.
Mhm.
The other startling statistic as well, I think, for me is, so what I said was that 41% of the global workforce are experiencing stress daily.
Mhm.
McKinsey & Co.'s Health Institute also identified that 22% of the global workforce are experiencing burnout.
That's a shocking figure as well.
put all of that collectively together, Simon, and you say, so why are we having this conversation? Why is it so important that we spread the news of different tools and techniques that can help people in these situations?
Yeah, well, those figures are really clear, isn't it? I mean, we've got burnout, we've got loneliness, we've got sadness, we've got stress. I mean, we've got all of the difficult things that people are experiencing. I'm shocked, especially the loneliness figure. I expected a lot of stress. The loneliness figure is really very high.
And it is. And then, so even putting those together, you can imagine where, and also what we know is even in terms of trends. So conflict in work is increasing, absence levels in the workplace are increasing. Well, if we look at those statistics and we pull out, it's just the reasons are sitting there for us to see. So
Yeah.
what we need to be doing is we need to be helping people to better understand themselves, create that better sense of self-awareness,
Hmm.
and understand those thoughts and feelings and emotions.
Hmm.
And that's very much where the ACT matrix comes into place. So the ACT matrix, ACT is capital A, capital C, capital T. So it is pronounced ACT rather than ACT. And ACT stands for acceptance and commitment training, or acceptance and commitment therapy. That's a model which a lot of clinicians will use. It's a 6-core process model. It is what I was originally trained in order to provide ACT training in workplaces. However, then, during the training, I also was included in, the ACT matrix was shown to me, and it made a lot of sense. And then I got in contact with Dr. Kevin Polk, who was the creator of the ACT matrix. And actually, the simplicity of that matrix and the flexibility of that matrix is just very clear to see. And I hope you'll see that when I've demonstrated this to you and explained how it works. So Kevin created the matrix in 2008, 2009. And the idea of that, Simon, was that he creates something, a diagrammed format of the ACT 6-core processes in a way that anybody could understand. So you don't need to be a clinician. You don't need to understand those 6-core processes. It's simple, but actually it's a bit sometimes like peeling an onion. There can be many layers to it the more you do it.
Yeah.
The core purpose of the ACT matrix is to develop something called psychological flexibility. So what is that? Psychological flexibility is about being able to do what's important for you, even in the presence of unwanted thoughts, feelings, memories, sensations, and urges. So we all have autopilots in terms of our emotions and thoughts and urges. And sometimes those don't necessarily fit with where we want our life to go, or they don't fit with us in being physically or mentally well. So the psychological flexibility is about being flexible with those thoughts and feelings and emotions. And to do that, we need to just better understand them, and the matrix will help us to do that. So what I'm going to do, if it's okay with you, I'm going to do a little bit of screen sharing now, and I'm going to share the ACT matrix. And when I share the ACT matrix, I'll just be asking you then a series of questions. So let me just here we go. So what you'll be seeing on your screen now, Simon, is 2 lines on a page, and there's a little green circle in the middle.
Yeah.
So for those of you that are maybe watching this recording, what I would urge you to do at this point is to grab a piece of paper and a pen, set your piece of paper down, landscape, and draw those 2 lines on the page, because you can complete your ACT matrix as we're talking this through. Think about this for you. So if we start, Simon, first with this vertical line, and what we have in the vertical line at the top of it is 5 senses experiences. So if you think about it today, you're hearing me, you're seeing things in the background even here as well. And really when we experience with our 5 senses, then that flows through us, and we get what's at the bottom of this line then is we get these internal experiences. So whatever I see, hear, touch, taste and smell, that flows through us, creates internal experiences, which are thoughts, feelings, memories, sensations and urges. So even for a moment, if I asked you to think about a lemon, and imagine cutting that slice of lemon into wedges. Just imagine that in your mind. And imagine now I ask you to take a bite out of that lemon. What will you start to feel? What will you be experiencing?
I can smell that lemony smell, the fresh lemon smell when you cut the lemon, and I've got that taste of lemon in my mouth. You're making me want lemons, Julie. I haven't had lemons, and I love lemonade and lemons.
You can smell all that zestiness and goodness, but actually, even in terms of maybe biting the lemon, we can all feel that that bitter taste.
Yeah,
so our mind is very clever in terms of being able to store that information, but also that illustrates the difference between separating out reality from what's going on in our mind.
Yeah.
And that is what this line is trying to do. It's trying to tell us that we experience things in 2 different ways: 5 senses experience and the internal experiences. And then what we have is we have the horizontal line, and on the left, Simon, we have relief, and on the right side then we have satisfaction. So I said this is a behavioural line. The sole purpose, I said, of the ACT matrix is to create psychological flexibility, and psychological flexibility helps us to live a fulfilling and satisfied life. So this is just trying to help us to understand the behaviours that we have or do will be either things that bring us relief or things that will be moving us towards that satisfied life. The bit in the middle where the 2 lines meet then is me noticing. In this case today, well, that's you noticing and me noticing. And so when we start this, what we want to do, just clicking, trying to get a pen here. So what we want to do is today is me noticing. And what we want to notice is who and what is important to us, to you, because this is a me matrix. So if I start, Simon, by asking you that question, who would you say are the important people in your life? Who would you notice they be?
Do you want names of specific people?
You can generalize it if you want. So, I could say, for example, my husband.
Well, for me, it would be close friends that I have, and my family, of course. Friends and family, colleagues. Have some really fantastic colleagues who I love working with.
And anybody else that you think would be important in your life? Any pets?
Yeah, I have some cats.
Cats? Then they definitely have to go on the list. I guess they're important to you.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Okay. Think now for a moment, Simon, about those friends that you have, the family, your colleagues, and your cats. What I want you to do now is to think about what is important to you in terms of your relationships with those people. So what might be important in terms of how you conduct those relationships?
Well, being there for each other, I guess. Well, being supportive is what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Okay, so
That's a big, being supportive is a huge thing that's important to me. Yeah, being supportive, and humor is always of importance,
humor,
having fun together,
having fun.
listening to each other, basically spending time together.
Okay. Anything else that would be really important to you?
Those are the main ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what having had a brief chat with you before, I know there's at least one other thing that's important. And I know that there's another person that we need to add to the list in terms of who's important. Who might be missing on the important list?
Oh, are you trying to say like myself?
Yay!
Okay. Myself last, as always.
And that's very common when we do this. Very common indeed. So
That was like
yeah,
a
and
trick
I think
question.
we've got to make sure that we highlight ourselves in our own life in terms of
Yeah.
who's important. And if you think about some of the other things that are important for you, we've had the conversation about health's important to you.
Oh yeah, of course, yes. Health, of course, health, and also well, being supportive encompasses everything. Me being supportive of other people, so that's fine. But yeah, health, definitely.
Yeah.
And if we're talking about experiences in general, things like being creative, I love to be creative. That's very important to me. Gardening, really like to garden. And yeah, those are the major things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, this is interesting. I said some of this is like peeling an onion. So we go so far and you say, well, I think that's it. We start to probe a little bit and push, and we find there are a few more things. And
Yeah.
actually, if I think about, you and the creation of union, there's another thing that I think is important for you in terms of it.
This is fun. It's like a guessing game. I like
I'd
it
say it
too.
begins with S.
Begins with S. Like socializing.
Success
Oh, success. Yeah, okay. Success is important to me. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Socializing
socializing,
is
you say?
also, yeah, socializing is also important.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much like spending time together. But yeah. And success, yeah, you're right. I am um kind of dedicated to success. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
You from only talking with me once, you really got me down well, didn't you? I'm impressed, Julie.
I try. And again, when I work with individuals with the ACT matrix, the key of this, Simon, is very much to be listening. It's to be noticing. The key
Yeah.
bit in the middle of this matrix is me noticing, you noticing. And so I'm trying to do that when I have conversations from a non-judgmental and respectful viewpoint is how we look at the ACT matrix, because there are a lot of judgments can come up. So there are things that if I listen to you, that I will know I'm a human as well, and so I can have some understanding of what you also might find is important. And that maybe leads me to, even if I think about your family, what's important to you in addition to these things in terms of your family?
Tips of my family. Wow, that's a big question. I think I'm not sure if there's anything else really. I mean, well, food, food is always
Food.
important.
Okay, yeah, yeah. I was thinking of a word beginning with L.
I have no
This is
idea
like
which.
I Spy.
I have no idea what word that's going to be. Oh,
Love.
you're going to say love. Okay, yeah, 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 love. Yes, you're absolutely right. Love is important, very important to me. So yes, you're right.
Yeah. And so, those people who are listening to this recording, you may come up with on the first occasion 2, 3, 4, 5 examples, but keep thinking about what else is important to me, I've no doubt as we start to look through the other areas of the matrix that we may even pop back here again because you're likely to tell me something else. So we say, that's
Yeah.
another thing that's important to you.
Yeah, this is a real exploration that we're going on. It's fun.
It is. It is. And, you know, I talk about the purpose of this is to create psychological flexibility.
Mhm.
Psychological flexibility is a skill. Therefore, the skill needs to be practiced.
Mhm.
And this isn't about doing this once, it's about a repeated habit in terms of this so that we start to get greater clarity. So now what we're going to do is we're going to move over into the bottom left.
Mhm.
And the question here that we want to answer is, because again, we're still in internal experiences, what's the unwanted stuff that shows up for you? So the unwanted stuff, Simon, are the things that go on inside us.
Mhm.
Nobody sees them. They are thoughts, they are feelings, they are urges, or even sensations. What might show up for you?
Oh, a huge one for me is anxiety.
Mhm.
That's definitely a big one.
Anxiety.
Anxiety. You may need to pick a square.
We always populate this one quite quickly and with lots in it.
Anxiety, I'd say kind of worries or insecurity. They're slightly different things. I'd say worries and insecurities for sure. I have my moments. Unwanted stuff. Well, worries, insecurity. Usually don't feel guilty about stuff.
Okay, great.
Um, maybe.
What about ever feel stressed?
Oh, all the time.
Yay! Okay, stress.
Stress, yeah, stress.
Frustration, ever get frustrated?
Yes, frustration, definitely frustration, and the occasional bits of anger.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Anger and frustration are very similar emotions. Restlessness for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Feelings of longing. Does that make sense? Longing.
Okay. Longing.
Um, the
Anything?
occasional bits of loneliness.
Yeah.
Um, you were going to say something there.
I
I'm
was
going
going to ask, what about, dread? Do you ever dread having to embark on a challenge
Yes,
or,
dread,
yeah,
absolutely dread,
okay.
dread and rumination for sure, as in like ruminating over kind of different things, like thinking it over constantly. And let me think if there are any more unwanted stuff. Well, if we're going for like basic things, occasionally we all get hungry at times, right?
Yeah, okay, hungry, yeah.
Get hungry, that kind of thing. Tiredness, for sure.
Tiredness.
I work a lot, so tiredness for sure.
Okay, and
Um,
I was going to say maybe if you get hungry and tired at the same time, you might be a bit irritable,
yeah, like hangry they call it, right?
angry.
Hangry. I like this word, hangry, like a combination of hungry and angry, hangry.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that happens to me. I have to eat regularly, otherwise I do start getting a little irritable. Yes,
Okay.
we've gone
So
off the square almost.
we've filled the square. See how easy that is to do, how comfortable it is to talk about that. Now, what I want to do is to ask you a question.
Okay.
Imagine, Simon, you never experienced anxiety, worry, insecurity, stress, frustration, anger, restlessness, longing, loneliness, dread, rumination, hungry, tired, irritable, or hangry. Imagine that you never had those again. How would
Okay.
life be?
Um, well, I would probably be dead because if I didn't get hungry, I wouldn't decide to eat. So it would probably end my life if I didn't have those feelings. But and well, if I didn't have anxiety, I might be like, well, I'm going to go and jump. Um, in like
You
over
wouldn't.
that rock or something that's dangerous, and they injure
You're
myself.
right. And
Yeah,
that's exactly the issue. So you would have either a very chaotic life or you would absolutely be dead because you'd have some kind of brain injury. If you didn't experience those emotions, there would
yeah,
be an injury to the emotional side of your brain. And that's not something that any of us wish for.
yeah, exactly.
However, many of us spend our lives wishing not to experience these things.
Mm. My first
So,
my first thought when you asked me this was, oh, that would be like heaven.
mm, which is what most people will say, oh, that'd be great. It
Mm,
would be really great. But actually, when you start to think about it, just as you say, you jump off a cliff, you do. So those people around you would be terrified to be in your company.
yeah,
Or actually, they'd be devastated because you'd have a really substantial brain injury.
yeah. It's even though I call these challenging emotions or difficult emotions. Some people call them negative emotions, but I don't like this term precisely for what you just said.
Yeah.
They're challenging, they're difficult, but they're necessary for survival. So they're trying to, in many ways, keep you alive. Yeah,
From an ACT perspective, we don't use the word positive or negative. And even that word, perhaps challenging, you remember I said we come at this from a non judgmental viewpoint.
okay,
So we try to avoid any words that are going to create some kind of judgment.
okay.
And the thing is, Simon, as well, some of these in a given context are not challenging or negative.
That's true.
So imagine that you're in a burning building.
Mm.
Do you want to feel anxiety?
Oh, yeah, I want to be super anxious so I can
Super
run out.
anxious because you'll fly out the door faster than
Yeah,
you've ever been able to do.
yeah,
So, all of this is contextual. It's about whether it's helpful or unhelpful in a given context.
that's true.
And now, what we want to do is to think about our relationship with those. So, what we want to do now is to think about noticing what are the things that I would see you do, Simon, when you're feeling anxiety, worried, insecure, frustrated, lonely, for example, any of those, what would I see or hear you doing to get rid of that feeling?
Wow, I have a whole toolkit. There's going to be quite a lot of things here. Being aware, so mindfulness for sure. I use this all of the time. That helps a lot. Just being aware of when I'm feeling a certain emotion so that I can either, accepting how I'm feeling. That's
Mhm,
definitely something that I do. Kind of noticing and accepting. Sometimes I will journal.
mhm,
I'm a big advocate for writing and expressing your emotions.
mhm,
Um, Other times I'll reach out to someone. I'll talk with someone. I'll reach out to a friend, especially if it's like a complicated emotion.
mhm,
Um, Yoga. I love yoga.
mhm,
Physical exercise, so yoga, gardening, so physical stuff. Sometimes I'll do cooking as well because it's very physical and
mhm,
it gives me something to focus on. Um, Sometimes I'll do kind of different kind of almost like CBT with myself, like thinking through the thoughts, basically like CBT slash reflection, kind of and challenging my thoughts essentially, challenging what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling. I don't know what you would call that as. What else do I do?
Do you
Just
ever, go quiet, remove yourself from
Oh,
situations?
yeah, I do. Yeah, that's one of my number one strategies. I'm quite an introverted person, so I do tend to, go and like take time to rest as well. Resting definitely helps me,
Okay.
um, especially if I'm feeling
Resting. The
something.
other,
Sorry, go ahead, Julie.
no, you go ahead.
Something that I notice is often when I'm feeling lonely, it's just because I'm tired. It's not even that
Mhm.
I'm lacking connections because I'm just tired, so tired that I can't connect with you myself. So it's quite an interesting one. Um,
And the other one that, if people are watching this recording, they may also find themselves doing, because it's a common relief behavior, is simply going to Netflix and finding a series that we can just numb out on.
Oh yeah, I do that. Music as well.
So
Really,
numbing out however you want
yeah,
to do it.
yeah.
Um,
That's kind of numbing out. Yeah.
well, so
Um,
what
yeah.
we're doing here is we're trying to understand, Simon, what it is we do to get relief from those.
Hmm.
So if you think about it, ACT stands for acceptance and commitment training or therapy. So
Hmm.
you highlighted acceptance is one of the things that you try to do. So in the bottom left, what we're trying to do is to notice and name emotions,
Hmm.
or also notice and name thoughts. I think that's always an interesting one for anyone to
Hmm.
jot down what the mind is telling them, because the mind is designed to tell us stories, and those stories are our thoughts. So
Yeah.
jotting those down as well and looking at how they respond to those, what they do to get relief from them.
Hmm.
And the question then is, in that top left, are those things that we do, those behaviors, are they working for us to be supportive, to have fun, to be listening to friends, family, or work colleagues, to be creative, to be successful, to
Hmm.
socialize? So what we can see here is there is, in some places, a little bit of conflict between what's in the bottom right and what's in the top left.
Hmm.
So because if socializing brings us satisfaction, then isolating is not a behavior that brings us or moves us towards that.
Hmm.
So again, it's about trying to just step back. The me noticing bit is stepping back and looking at, what am I doing? Most of the strategies that we have on the top left are strategies that will give us temporary relief, but they're
Hmm.
not long-term strategies. So we can fight and struggle with those. And then what happens is sometimes we experience it with our five senses, and then that flows through us and creates another unwanted emotion or thought. So if we isolate ourselves, then maybe we feel regret that we've missed out on a social activity that we could have participated on.
Hmm.
So then over here in the top right, the question then is, what behaviors could I do? What do I notice that I could do that would move me closer towards satisfaction in relation to who and what's important? So if being supportive is important and humor is important and fun and listening. So for example, you would probably say, Simon, because if I look at, you've said gardening is important. So gardening
Hmm.
would come over here. Your yoga and your mindfulness can both appear on both sides of the matrix.
Hmm.
But what is the difference in terms of why they're there? And the why is about why we are doing them.
Hmm.
So am I doing that activity to get relief
Hmm.
from the unwanted stuff? Or am I doing that activity because it is something that's bringing me satisfaction?
Hmm.
So you can go out to garden and you can look at the fruits of your labour and feel very uplifted and satisfied. You can go to the garden because you simply want to try to avoid the thoughts and feelings.
Yeah,
And,
that's
and
true.
that's the difference in terms of the two. I want to go out to be creative, or I'm going because I'm trying to get rid of.
Mm.
And what we know is that fighting and struggling with thoughts and emotions increases the frequency and intensity of those. So
Mhm.
fighting and struggling doesn't work.
Mhm.
So the acceptance of those, allowing them to be and for them to come and go, because they will pass naturally. But if we're fighting and struggling with them, they're likely to stay longer and they're likely to jump back at us.
That makes so much sense. It gives some more gravity, energy. Yeah.
It does. So just coming back to the bottom right then, Simon, if you looked at the list of the things that are important to you, or the people that are important. What are the kinds of things, behaviours that you would do that bring you satisfaction? Maybe let's think about health. Because what's on the right side is proactive, what's on the left is reactive.
So for health, it might be, well, it could be anything. It could be making sure I'm eating well. So making healthy food, making sure I've had enough sleep, for example. And those are the major ones, really. For health, that is.
And what about in terms of, let's say, take the bit that you love as well as creative. What are the things that you could do, behaviours that would be creative, that would bring you satisfaction?
Well, writing for sure. I love to write. That's always a creative thing for me. Taking photographs is definitely something that I love to do. That's very proactive. Those are the major two, writing and photographs. And the creative side of me can go through the gardening as well, because you're choosing plants and you're choosing positions, etc. Yeah.
And also, I think what you're saying there, even in terms of the gardening, is experiencing the garden with my 5 senses.
Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly. So actually experiencing nature is a huge one for me. Absolutely. Nature in general. Yeah.
So, even on this top right, people will talk about, oh, I need to exercise more. I need to go for a walk. But walking for some people these days now is about walking with headphones in.
Yeah.
And what I would be saying is even try to experience walking with your 5 senses.
Yeah, it's a great way to do things,
Yes, so
smelling the
much more
scents.
uplifting.
Exactly, especially during spring and summer when all of the flowers are out, especially the scented ones. Sometimes you get that scent in the air, and seeing the beautiful, nature around you, hearing even cars going by, it has some kind of interestingness to it, but especially birdsong. That's very, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do here with the ACT matrix, we're trying to get clarity, me noticing who and what's important to me. We're noticing what unwanted stuff shows up for me. We're noticing how I respond to that and whether those things work for me. And we're also thinking about those things that we know bring satisfaction, or new things that we'd like to try that will bring satisfaction. Because the more things that we do that bring us satisfaction, the less we'll be spending time on the left side of the matrix. And I think that's the key question for you and for anybody then that's listening to the recording is, if you look at the matrix, Simon, and you think about how much time do I spend with my 5 senses, and how much time do I experience with my internal thoughts, feelings, memories, sensations? How much time do I spend on relief behaviours, and how much time do I spend on satisfaction behaviours? Without necessarily putting you on the spot and asking you for a percentage, a lot of people will say, I probably spent more time on internal experiences and more time on relief behaviours.
Yeah.
But where does life happen? Life happens with the 5 senses experiences. Otherwise, I'm experiencing life through an internal lens, which doesn't bring us a lot of satisfaction.
Yeah, it's very true. It's very true. I was just thinking when you were saying this that my percentage would be more internal experience, being in my thoughts, but when you get out of your thoughts and you're in your senses, it has this deep satisfaction comes across you. Yeah.
Yeah. And over the years that, I've been using the ACT matrix, clearly I said it's a skill that needs to be practiced. I can notice myself drifting into that internal and telling myself, come back into the 5 senses
Yes.
experience.
Yeah, right.
You know, it
Exactly.
It's all those simple things. Having breakfast. Am I experiencing with my five senses? Or am
Yeah.
I having breakfast and I'm scrolling through social media, or I'm watching the news, or I'm doing something on TV, whatever it is? Am I really experiencing and spending much more time experiencing rather
Yeah.
than spending time on the internal?
Yeah, it's true. It's amazing if you notice how little you're paying attention, especially to eating and
Mhm.
things like this. And a lot of people are watching the TV while they eat. They will just eat, and I've done this loads of times before. Um, and you just there's so much that we of life we miss out on because we're not paying attention.
You're right. And the other one that you've just triggered in my head that's linked to that one is driving.
Oh yeah.
So a lot of people will be in the car, and many people will tell you that there's a spot along the journey where they have no recollection of it because they've been on autopilot. You know, we've learned to drive, we just get in and we go. Now, when you talk about that, it sounds mad and you think how dangerous is it? But our minds have that ability to slip into a story that the mind is telling us. It's maybe even a full-blown drama that we're watching as well as hearing about, but we need to try to keep learning that skill to bring ourselves back into our five senses, looking at what's going on around us, listening, seeing, feeling, even the car, the steering wheel. There are lots of simple tips. And I suppose, Simon, you've probably gathered I could talk about this all day long. But there is a limit to the time that we have available. And I
Mm,
suppose what I've done is I've walked you through now the matrix
mhm.
and demonstrated how it works. So I suppose my question to you now is, what do you think, having used the matrix yourself?
I think it's really fantastic. It was a lot more powerful than I'd imagined, actually.
Mhm.
Um, it feels like an exploration. It's actually this is a great reflective tool. It's a really great way of reflecting, and it's something I'm going to try myself in the future as well. Um, yeah, I would recommend this. I actually had a great time doing this, and like I'm surprised that I found this fun. I didn't expect to find the Matrix fun.
So it is definitely designed to be fun.
Mm,
And if you think about how easy it was to have those conversations. So when
yeah,
I'm using this in a coaching context, I'm starting with somebody who's never met me before. And
yeah,
I don't talk about what the problem is. I simply talk about the matrix and how it works.
mm,
And when we finish the session and people look at the matrix, they go, wow, that's my life.
yeah,
And they're just amazed and they've enjoyed the process. It is a process,
yeah, yeah.
but it's
I feel the same.
and so I think it's a great tool. I've seen it help many people, and I hope by sharing it with you today and that you sharing it with those people that subscribe to Union as well, that it'll help
Mm,
many more people.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
I'm going to
I was
stop
just
the screen sharing in case you have any questions for me.
Yeah, I was just thinking, is there somewhere where we can actually get I think you're using PowerPoint, the PowerPoint or some kind of version of the ACT matrix for people?
Sure, absolutely. So I can share, the ACT matrix. It's simple. There are four simple questions. So
Mhm.
it's even just a case of, if people are watching the recording is write that down.
Maybe write it
Just
down,
even a
yeah.
blank sheet of paper. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I can absolutely share that with you so that you can make that available.
That would be great. Thank you so much, Julie. I was just thinking it would be nice for people to be able to do that digitally while they're watching this.
Mhm.
And plus, I'm wanting it myself, a little bit for myself as well, not gonna lie. That was fantastic, Julia. I mean, you've explained it so very well and in such a great way. I don't think I have any questions that come to mind. Um, I'm just thinking, there's a lot of mindfulness in this framework that I wasn't aware of. When you talk about the five senses, there's
Yeah.
another way of describing this as mindfulness. being aware of what's going on. So I think that's absolutely fantastic. And yeah, it was just very fun, Julie.
Yeah.
Would you like to tell us where we can find you
Yes,
online? How can we get in
sure.
touch with you, Julie?
So you'll find me online at julieallenconsulting.com. So Allen is Allen, so that's julieallenconsulting.com. You'll find me as Julie Allen also on LinkedIn, and also Julie Allen Consulting on Facebook as well. So you'll find more than enough there about what I do and how I do it. Just going back to your earlier point about mindfulness, you're right. The mindfulness is definitely within the ACT framework. The difference between ACT and mindfulness is ACT has to focus on values. So the bottom right question around what's important to me is
Hmm,
really a values question. What do I value in life?
that's so true.
And it also has its roots in CBT.
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic framework. We're going to put all of those links in the description for this video. So thank you so much, Julia. I really appreciate your time. Thank you for taking the time to go through this. It was really, really fun. I had a really
Good.
lovely conversation. This was really nice. I'm really glad that we got to talk. You can also download our app from www.unaeon.com. That's unaeon.com. We have the download links there for Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. It would be great to have you as part of our community. We have support groups, postings. We've got social networking features, and we're just about to launch some new wellbeing features. We're about to have some coping strategies. We're going to have journaling. We're about to launch our friend matching feature as well, so you can find friends based on mutual interests and location. So Union makes it easier for you to essentially get and give support, whether that's the self-help features or whether that's making great friends, because, well, friendship, like we were mentioning earlier, is such a huge thing. Having people who are there to listen to you, to support you, and that's something that's been great for my mental health. So we'd love to see you on our Union social network as well. Thank you so much, Julie. I really appreciate that. And hopefully we'll get to chat again in the future about, any other kind of different things. It's been really fun talking. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in to watch this. And stay tuned for more conversations that we'll be posting on YouTube and our social media. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Union Social. We're on LinkedIn as Union, TikTok as well as Union Social. So yeah, remember to subscribe for more great content like our conversation here with Julie. Thank you so much, Julie.
Thank you for having me, Simon. Thank you.
Thank you so much.